This is question 4 from section 1 of the 2014 BMAT paper, and in this question we ask what conclusion can be drawn from the argument. Let's just remind ourselves, if we're looking for a conclusion that could be drawn, that's something that hasn't been said but does follow from what is in the passage. So let's have a look in the passage. First, the writer says that since the late 1990s there have been wolves in Hauts-de-France, which is a region in France, and that puts them in conflict with shepherds. So this is just a factual report about what's happened. And then it says, since the wolves are protected, farmers are compensated for sheep killed by wolves. So the wolves can't be killed or chased away, but because they're attacking sheep, the farmers have to be compensated for that. So this is just another fact about what farmers are given. And then we're told the compensation is much greater than the value of the sheep. So just a fact about the compensation. We're told it's difficult to tell whether a sheep was attacked by a wolf or a dog. So another fact. And then lastly, a statistic: there's 8 million dogs in France, including 8,000 wild dogs, but only 200 wolves. So another fact. Okay, so as is often the case in these draw conclusion questions, we've got just a bunch of factual statements, but we can still try to arrange them and think about what follows. So sentences 1, 2 and 3 are really setting out the problems. So the wolves are killing the sheep and the farmers get compensated. And then 4, 5 and 6 contain the important information. So one thing here is about the compensation, how big it is, and the other thing is about the comparison between wolves and dogs. So we might think, why all this is relevant? Well, it seems it's likely going to be about the difficulty of telling whether it was actually a wolf that attacked a sheep, in which case you get compensation, or a dog, in which case you don't. So if we just summarise the facts, we've got this comparison between wolves and dogs, so you can't tell which have attacked a sheep, but dogs are more common. So in a sense it's more likely to be a dog. And then if we just think about the compensation for the sheep killed by wolves, what we know is it's very generous, so it's actually more than the sheep is worth. And then something is meant to follow from these two. So what's the obvious thing that would follow? It's actually not one of the options, but what's the obvious thing you might think the argument is heading towards? Well, it seems to be saying often if it looks like a sheep is being killed by a wolf, it might be it was actually a dog and we can't tell. And also there's kind of an incentive for farmers either not to check very carefully or to actually claim a sheep was killed by a wolf when they know it was killed by a dog, because they get more money than the sheep was actually worth. So basically what seems to follow from this is it's likely that farmers will either intentionally, because they have this monetary incentive, or unintentionally, because it's hard to tell, claim that a sheep killed by a dog was actually killed by a wolf. So that seems like the obvious conclusion, but that's actually not one of the options. So I've put this in here in red because whatever our actual conclusion is, whatever the answer is, it will probably follow from this as well. This is like an intermediate conclusion. So let's look at the options and see if any of them would follow from that. So if we look at A says the problem of wolves killing sheep has been exaggerated. So that means that people are basically saying wolves kill more sheep than is actually the case. Does that follow from what we've been told? Well, we did say it's likely that some dog kills will actually be claimed as wolf kills. But the trouble with A is that it's not just saying this could happen, it's saying it's definitely happened. So people have been over-reporting wolf kills. And when they say it's exaggerated, that's not the kind of word you use for, say, one particular farmer's claim. That's the kind of word you use about, say, media reports of the problem. All these things people are saying to each other, and we basically haven't been told anything about what the reporting of wolf kills has been like. So all we know is that it's likely there could be a confusion. That doesn't mean it's actually happened or it's been over-reported. So A is stronger than what we can actually conclude. If we look at B says the claim that a sheep was killed by a wolf should be treated cautiously. So does that follow? Well, again, that does look a bit like what we said follows. So it's likely that some dog kills will be claimed as wolf kills. But we can see it's importantly weaker than A, because it's just saying we should be cautious. So we should suspect that this can happen, not that it has actually happened. So actually this looks like a good conclusion. So we should be cautious if it's easy to confuse the two, but it's not going beyond that. It's not too strong. Let's just check C and D to see if they can't be the conclusion. So C says the farming community is unhappy with the protected status of wolves. Does that follow from the information we're given? Well, we're told that the wolves are in conflict with shepherds, but that doesn't mean they're unhappy with the protected status. It just means that they are attacking sheep, but maybe the farmers think the compensation is actually enough. And we actually have some reason to think that because the compensation is quite high. So maybe the farmers are actually quite happy with the protected status of wolves now that the compensation exists. So in any case, we don't have any reason to conclude this from what we've read. So nothing would indicate this, so I'll just mark it as irrelevant. And then D says that wolves don't deserve their reputation for killing sheep. Does this look like a good conclusion? Well, actually it looks a lot like A. A is kind of saying that wolves have too much of a reputation for killing sheep. And none of the information we're given actually tells us that wolves do have a particularly high reputation, just that it's known to happen. And again, similarly to A, we know it's possible that dog kills, or even likely that dog kills could be claimed as wolf kills, but it doesn't mean it actually happens. So again, this is too strong in the same way as A, and so again we see that the answer is B.